Hello and welcome. Today we are in gorgeous Shenzhen to bring you a review of an exciting new Chinese electric sedan that's going to be hitting markets around the world very soon, the BYD Seal. Let's get started.
With hands-on test drives and reviews of exciting Chinese market vehicles, Wheelsboy is the #1 source for China auto insights. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook. Here in China, the Seal ranges in price from $31,000 to $42,500 US at current exchange rates. Its biggest rivals, the XPeng P7 and the Tesla Model 3, start at $33,000 and $38,000 US respectively.
The designs coming out of the Chinese electric sedan segment are some of the most interesting and best looking available today, but the BYD Seal still manages to stand out from the crowd.
It's compact, athletic, and covered in interesting details that reference its ocean theme. From the ripple pattern on the front fascia to the water droplets on the C-pillar and taillights. Those who simply call it a copy of the Model 3 are either visually impaired or Tesla shareholders.
But while the exterior design splashes just enough details to keep you interested, the interior is more of a torrent of different colors, patterns, and styles. If you could say that the interior designers behind the Tesla Model 3 work only 4 days a week, I would say that the interior designers over at BYD, well, they must work, 7, maybe even 8.
But if you can handle the design, you'll be rewarded with an interior that generally feels premium and well put together. The seats on long-range and performance models are trimmed in real leather, and all but the cheapest version have a heated and cooled front row, though they lack the heated rear seats of the Model 3.
The BYD Seal has a wheelbase of 2.92 meters, giving it a very decent amount of rear legroom. Headspace is also pretty good thanks to this large overhead glass. One thing that is definitely better in this car versus the XPeng P7 or the Tesla Model 3 is the angle of the rear seats. They're much less upright than those cars, meaning they're much more comfortable for driving in long distances. The Seal uses BYD's latest EV architecture called E-Platform 3.0. However, unlike other E-Platform vehicles like the BYD Yuan Plus and the Dolphin, it has cell-to-body technology. What that means is that the battery pack itself is actually integrated into the structure of the car. The goal of this is to increase rigidity and decrease weight.
Sandwiched into that structure is one of 2 lithium iron phosphate battery packs. Standard range cars use a 61.4 kilowatt-hour pack, delivering 550 kilometers of CLTC range, while long-range models utilize an 82.5 kilowatt-hour unit to go up to 700 kilometers. Performance versions use that same pack, but have a slightly shorter range of 650 kilometers. Standard and long-range versions of the Seal use a single rear-mounted motor, with the former pumping out a very modest 150 kilowatts and the latter pushing a more respectable 230 kilowatts. Spring for the performance version, and you've got dual motors making a mighty 390 kilowatts and 670 newton-meters of torque.
That entry-level car takes 7.5 seconds to reach 100 kilometers per hour. Thankfully, we're not in the entry-level car. The performance version does it in just 3.8 seconds. Unfortunately, we're not in the performance car either. This is a long-range version, which does it in a very reasonable, if not particularly thrilling, 5.9 seconds.
Still, at around $37,000 US, I suspect this is going to be among the best-selling trims. It's also just $1,000 US less than the starting price of a standard range Model 3. It would seem BYD isn't just going to rely on a cheaper price to attract buyers.
Today's journey begins with a long section of highway, so let's talk a bit about this car's performance in that environment, starting with its driver assistance systems. This car has D-Pilot, which is obviously BYD's name for their level 2 semi-autonomous, or rather driver assistance system. BYD's driver assistance has never really been their strong suit. It's not a selling point for this brand. It certainly doesn't measure up to the likes of XPeng, Neo, or Tesla. If you just go ahead and drive the car on your own, however, it's a very comfortable vehicle, especially here on the highway. NVH is kept well under control, whether it's tire noise or wind noise or the sound of the electric motors. I would say it's better than that of a Model 3. Ride comfort is also impressively well done. This is a multi-link front and rear suspension, so you would expect it to be comfortable, and it is. It soaks up bumps, whether you're on the highway like this or you're on surface roads, very well, and you feel pretty isolated from the road itself. It's, again, a comfortable commuter car for sure. One thing I have learned driving this car today is that whether you're in a mountain road like this or you're even in traffic, stick with sport mode. It has much better throttle response and the steering has a much more heft to it. It feels much more like a performance car when you're driving it like that. When you're in comfort mode or, well, normal as they say, or eco, it kind of just turns into any other electric car, and I don't like that. Something else you want to know is, how does it actually handle? And there's good news in that department for sure, starting with the fact that it has some of the best steering feel that I've ever felt in an electric vehicle. Things like the Xpeng P7 and other electric sedans that I've driven, including some that are more performance-oriented, really don't have a lot of steering feedback. You really just don't know what's going on with the front wheels, but that's not true with the BYD Seal. It feels quite engaging to drive. The good news keeps coming too, because this thing feels pretty solid and planted through the corners in this kind of mountain road that we're on right now. It's pretty confidence inspiring. I know that this thing isn't exactly going to be tail happy. It's got a pretty aggressive ESP or electronic stability programming system. I know that from driving it previously, but it's enough that you can feel comfortable pushing it into corners. And again, with the amount of steering feedback that you get, you feel confident that you know where the car is going at the same time. It's actually quite fun to drive. The BYD Seal will be available for sale in countries like Australia and regions like Europe and Southeast Asia starting soon, though we don't know exactly when. What I do know is this was a very important car for BYD. It had to be good. It just needed to be good. And the good news is, it really is. It's an all-around well-performing and comfortable vehicle. All right, that's going to be all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check us out on all of our social media and website, links in the description below. And as always, like, subscribe, and hit the bell.